Hey everybody. We're really excited to have Chelsea Lawrence with us this evening. And again, Nell's just been struggling, and so she's not going to be able to join us today, but she'll be here in spirit for sure, and she's looking forward to being part of future interviews. We're going to go ahead and just take a few moments to bring in Chelsea. So if you're just joining us now, just hang tight and we'll get started here in just a bit. Hey, my friend.
Hi there.
Oh, you look beautiful. How you doing?
Doing good. It is Fashion Week Minnesota right now, so I've been getting my posts up and virtually watching the shows. So it has been a busy week for me.
I've been seeing some of those posts, and one of the things that I'm excited about is a lot of people that follow you, they know of some of the conditions that you have, but you're such an artist. You're into modeling. You're really so. Some of the ways in which you tell the story is kind of through little skit things, and you've got you're just really like my wife in the way in terms of fashion and makeup and stuff. And so I love that. I love how that is a part of how you tell your story. And I hope that today, which is an opportunity to kind of have a sit down, just a casual conversation, about an hour and a half. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to kind of have that be how you tell your story in terms of kind of explaining a little bit more, detail and getting into it. So I'm hope that this is an opportunity that really honors you with however with whatever you include today. But how is those events going? You enjoying yourself with that?
I absolutely love it. So before I'll get into all the details, but I'm absolutely loving it. Before I became disabled, I was a full-time model and actress. I worked in the movie industry and the TV industry. I was on Netflix, I was on HBO, I was on ABC, I was on magazines, I was on book covers. You could watch me on TV on the shopping network. I was on runways. Then I sort of got on the producing side and I produced commercials, I produced fashion shows, I was a stylist, I went around the world with designers. So I had so much fun with that. And then with Fashion Week Minnesota, so I was sort of on the modeling side, turned into producer side. Then when I became disabled, I was offered a spot with the ambassador, fashion ambassador, where you sort of promote the shows. Because I wasn't able to go, and that was during COVID, or that was when I became disabled and I wasn't able to go to the shows, but I was still actively wanting to participate. And so for me to be included, I was so grateful that they even thought of me. And I was like, yes, this is still a way for me to be involved. So I had to figure out a way to virtually get around the world of fashion. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to have maybe my sister or my friends that I know, and they will wear like, one person said they're going to wear a mask and then wear like a phone like holder on them, and they're going to be like, this is Chelsea, and they'll wear me and they'll walk around. But then
Yeah.
COVID happened, and so I made a virtual fashion week where people would post their things, and I got that going. And then I did that for 2 seasons, and then I just got asked to be on the advisory council board for Fashion Week Minnesota. And so I am helping make decisions on shows and stuff, but they really want me on the board to help inclusivity and to make sure that, shows are ADA appropriate. And they really want to be able to bring in disabled models, and they want to make sure that they're being inclusive. I brought in one of my friends from TikTok who is an amazing disabled advocate. She's becoming a lawyer, and so she came and spoke to the producers and the showrunners and did a great speech on how they can be more inclusive and prepare their shows. But they're now talking to me and having a different seat on, actually a contracted seat on how I can reach out to the community and make the disabled community feel more safe into coming in, into actually getting those disabled models maybe on the runway a little bit more, because if I was a disabled model and I walked in and I just saw all these glamazons, I wouldn't feel comfortable by myself. But if I reached out to the community and, you know, got things going, I also want to reach out to a college that they bring designers from. And I said, what if we reached out and talked to them and had made a project where they had to actually make adaptive clothing for one of their projects? So maybe one of those designers, you know, in a couple of years actually had a full line of adaptive clothing. I was complaining on Instagram, and one of the local designers here, she works for the accessible line for Target, because CEO is here. Target CEO is here. And the next thing you know, I was sitting in a Zoom meeting with the accessible line of Target, and they were like, we would love for you to tell us everything that you think about accessible stuff. Don't tell us about any designs you have in mind, and just tell us, what do you think about this? And it's like, some of the questions you think, are you an alien? But like, it's like, what do you think about skirts? And it's just like, for me, I have neuropathy in my legs. And so it's like, even from when I was a young kid, I'd always wear leggings underneath skirts. And they were like, I never thought about this. Even for somebody with sensory processing, you know, they might not like that feeling of the rubbing. And so they've put me onto this app where I actually see the designs come in, and they're like, how is this design? We're still working on it. Do you think it needs zippers? Do you think it needs Velcro? What do you think it needs tweaking? And I'll be like, well, for someone who has maybe a feeding tube, they might not be able to zip that up all the way. And so you put the comments in, and people talk, families, kids, all ages and stuff like that. So it's an amazing thing. And I've been a tester for swimsuits and for other boutiques and whatnot. So my fashion life is a huge part of my disability and my disability awareness. So when it comes to Fashion Week, I use that platform and I use that sort of way of art to use that way to raise awareness. And I think that's an easier way to slide it in there than sort of just going like disability awareness. I feel like fashion is a great mediator.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and what a strong intro in terms of the, you know, the involvement that you've got during that important week. You know, there's so much to unpack today. And so we're gonna kind of take a step back at that, and we might interweave into a little bit about what you've talked about, because there is just so much.
Yeah.
Nell wasn't able to be here again, and she, you know, gives her heart to you. She hates it when she is not able to join, and she wouldn't miss any of them if she really could. So she gives her love, and she'll, you know, be out there. Yes, I'll tell her that, and you know that. I mean, this is her baby and what she's driving, and she's just got a dream to reach out to the world. We've got people that are, you know, scheduled down in Australia and Ireland and things, and so we're moving international. So it's pretty exciting.
That's so amazing.
Yeah, yeah. We have people. We're thinking of meeting interviews about, you know, Tuesdays and Thursdays. But even if we didn't do that, if we just had interviews weekly, we have people to talk with just right now that have expressed an interest through almost mid-February 2025.
Oh my gosh.
So
that is so
how
amazing.
Yeah, so how exciting it is to have you for a number of obvious different reasons. And so let's do that. Let's kind of back up a little bit and kind of unpack some things. And I'm going to kind of approach this. I know that there are a lot of people that when they hear what you're saying, whether they've joined us live or whether they watch this on our YouTube channel, some of what they're going to hear, I'm sure that they know. But I said that, you know, kind of at the beginning in terms of kind of, you know, how you communicate things, and even with, you know, whether it's somebody vocalizing and just kind of sitting there talking through 3 minutes, or whether it's, you know, doing something a little bit more art, whether it's music or mimicking kind of a sound bite or whatever. there's only so much that you can do to really convey. And so I think that I'm going to just put a stab out there. I think that there's a lot of people, even those that closely follow you, that will learn quite a
Mm-hmm.
bit from, and I'm hopeful for that. And usually what we do is we kind of talk about some of the conditions that you have, with the focus being on chronic pain and disabling kinds of conditions. You can kind of take us back however far you want in terms of, was it something that kind of started early? Were you really healthy at a certain point and then it just hit you?
Yep.
We just met with Dania, and she just got cancer, and she was like a host for like an active movie, right? And all of a sudden she just got hit
Yeah.
with lymphoma. So some of the conditions that you have: Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, you've got mast cell activation syndrome, seasonal allergies, cranial cervical
Mm-hmm.
instability, uh, dystomia or neurocardiac syncope, scoliosis, degenerative disc disease, arthritis, intestinal dysmotility, ADHD or attention deficit hyperactivity, neuropathy, and more. So how do you want to kind of get into that? People still don't understand some of those conditions, and the story of kind of how that plays out. So let's kind of start there with people getting a feel for some of those things that you have, and kind of how that came into your life.
Yeah. So for me, I've had chronic pain my whole life, and I thought my pain was normal at a young age. I thought you felt the pain. So I didn't vocalize it for a long time. So I thought pain was life. This is what life felt like. By 11, it started getting a little bit more unbearable. I was, by 12, one summer, I passed out like 30 times. So I was having all of these symptoms going on throughout my life, but we just didn't really do anything about them. We just thought, she's a little quirky.
Yeah.
And, but like, I knew something was just going on. My heart would race. But the pain just continually went on and on and on. And, I just was never comfortable. I would do these weird things with my body. Like I would take my kneecaps and slide them around, sort of like Nintendo controllers. I would do this with my knees. I would take my arm and slide it in and out, like when I was on the ski team, do that. When I got sick, I would get sick longer than everybody else. Like I would go through school, and when I made break, I would be sick on break when all my other friends weren't. And so
Mhm.
the thing was, is as I got older, I noticed I felt more pain and more sick. And so it was just like, why are all my friends moving a little bit faster? And then it was 2019, and I'm much, I'm very faith based. And it was 2019. I looked at my mom and I told her, I need to move in with you. And I had been independent. I went to boarding school, so I had not lived with my mom since about 13. And
Mhm.
my father passed away when I was 13. And he passed away sort of very quickly. We don't know exactly why, but it was something heart related, but we're not sure why exactly. And so in 2019, I looked at my mom and I said, I have to move in with you, and I don't know why. I looked at my roommate that I loved, and it broke my heart, and I said, I have to move out, and I don't know why. And I had this angst, and I had this feeling that I was running out of time, but I had to move out. I looked at the calendar. I picked September 13th, 2019. 13 was a very significant number for me. But, the year 13, my dad died. All 13 just was the number in my life. And I looked in the calendar, September 13th, this had to be, because I need to get all the clothes in for Fashion Week. And I said, but this has to be it. I need to. And mom was like, no, this is a horrible time. I said, this has to be that whole summer. preparing to move and everything, I felt this angst, this pulling, like, feeling, and this unnerving sensation that I needed to get all of these things done. I finally got to do the things I wanted to do that summer. I got all my friends to the lake house that spring. I took my sister, flew her to Colorado. It was the first time we got to go somewhere for our birthdays together. So I did all of these milestones that I'd wanted to do for years. But like in my brain, I said, I'm running out of time. I was packing in all of my work. My body was in so much pain that I would pack in my work and then I'd crash for days. I was lying to my friends saying, oh, are you going out tonight? I'd be like, no, I'm so busy. So it's like, if it wasn't for a work event or like a fashion event, I was not going out. I couldn't leave my bed. So I would go to the event, come home, and literally just lay there. And then finally, September 13th came, the boxes came, got down to my room, laid in the bed, set up Netflix. Mom said goodnight to me, shut the door. Middle of the night, I woke up and had my first seizure.
Oh, wow.
And looking back at it when I was in the hospital, I said, that was God preparing the way for me. That was such a huge faith moment of being like, I need to get all of this out of your life, and I need to get you here, and I need you to be safe, and I need someone to protect you and to help you, guide you around through all this medical stuff. Because if you stay where you are, you're going to be alone when this happens, out in the middle of the country. You're going to be with a wolf dog and 2 exotic cats, and your roommates are going to be gone.
Yeah.
And the ambulances take twice as long out there, and you're going to have 800 seizures for 2.5 months, and nobody's going to be able to help you. So I need to get you somewhere safe. And so that was, for me, a faith moment of, I'm going to prepare the way for you to get there. And then God stripped me down to bones and took everything from me and said, I'm going to bring you down to bones, and I'm going to bring you back up and show you what truly your path is. And during that process, I hated every moment of it. It was so painful, but after it all, after everything I've been through, like, I truly found a meaning in life. So during that beginning process in 2019, the doctors had no idea what was going on. I had 800 seizures in 2.5 months. Then I started to lose walking, and the doctors didn't want to give me a wheelchair. They said, you're fine, you don't need it. I lost 40 pounds. I was stuttering. I was losing my speech. I had tremors. It looked like Parkinson's. I could barely do anything. And the doctor's like, we're not writing you a prescription for a wheelchair. We're not giving you a handicap pass. We're not doing this. And then I had one big seizure where I sat up and I couldn't move my head. And I'd been in and out of the hospital a bunch of times for these seizures. And this one was so bad, when I woke up, I could not pick up my head anymore. Finally got to this hospital, and when we'd been in the hospital before, we kept asking, is it the medications I'm taking that are causing these seizures? And they kept saying, nope, I think it's in your head. And we're like, how do you know? How do you know it's in my head? Well, I think it's in your head. One time I was sent out after a grand mal seizure, and they said, you just have to go home, you're fine. Didn't know my name, the year, couldn't sign my name, didn't know the president, and they just sent me home. But I kept fighting, we kept fighting, and we didn't know how to advocate at that time because we were so new to all of this, but I knew we had to keep fighting. And so I ended up, because I couldn't pick up my head, in a nursing home for 72 days under the wrong diagnosis. And in there, they got me to walk again. They got me with a walker. My weight was still down. But every time I was eating, weird things was happening. And the whole time I was there, I kept researching, and I decided to do crowdsourcing. I had the platforms. I had the people that I knew, because I had connections with TV. I had connections with films. I had connections with all of these great people. I was like, I'm just going to start videotaping everything, and putting it out there and crowdsourcing. Now, anybody listening, if you have symptoms that are out of control and you are undiagnosed, know that being undiagnosed does not mean that you don't deserve care and you are not valid. You are valid 100% just because you are undiagnosed. So do not feel that you are not valid. You are valid, no matter your diagnosis or if you are undiagnosed. But
You
if
just don't have the answers yet.
Yeah, you just don't have answers yet. But do not give up, and do not stop fighting, because you will. Yeah, you just gotta keep fighting. Take videos, pictures, and get a journal. Every time you have big episodes or whatever, write them down in a calendar. So the pictures on your phone usually have a date, and then write down how long the episode was in your calendar. So you have the pictures, the videos, and notes that you put in the calendar. My mom does it, and my PCA does it for me. And we write all of this down. And then,
so let me ask you this:
yep.
These symptoms that you're describing, what condition was that in relation to? Was it more?
So at that time there was no name to it. They wanted to say it was all psychosomatic, and so they were treating me like I was psychosomatic in there. And so after finally crowdsourcing, I kept getting the same name coming back to me, and finally I just had to wait till I was well enough to get out of the hospital to get to her, and I finally was able to send a Cub Foods box of my information, and our first visit was 6 hours long. 6 hours long. Wow. And she goes through from birth to now, and each spot is like birth to 1 month, 1 month to 6 months, 6 months to, like, in detail. And she also asked my mother, like, how was your birth? How was the birth plan? How was everything, down to detail? And when she met me, she goes, so you have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, for sure. We went through the testing of that, and she goes, okay, with further testing, we found out I have 2 forms of it, which is rare. I have classic, and I have hypermobility, which is very rare, but that means it stems from 2 sides. So that can happen. So I have the stretchy, and I have the hypermobility, the stretchy skin, but it's not that stretchy, and I have the hypermobility because I have 2 sides of it. Then,
and so the easiest way that I understand to explain Ehlers-Danlos is the sinews that are all involved with the bone and joint and the muscle. There's not enough stability, so there's movement that happens, right?
So,
and that can.
Yeah, it's a connective tissue disorder. So the glue that's holding the body together is no longer holding the body together. So the collagen is missing in the DNA, basically. So it's so the joints, the muscles, the tissue on the inside, which then collectively makes the rest of the body fall apart as well. So connective tissue is also the rest of your body, which makes you, because it's a syndrome, then you collectively get more things, and your mast cells are inside the connective tissue. And because of the symptoms I was having, she then goes, I think you have mast cell as well because of how you were reacting as a child. And now I think you have mast cell activation syndrome. So then she was able to send out the testing immediately. I went and got the testing for that. That came back 100% glowingly red. So then I had to document and journal everything I was trying to eat. Went down the histamine list, so you don't stop all your foods. That's a big thing with mast cells. A lot of times they just stop eating. And the big thing is...
Can you summarize mast cell activation?
Mast cell activation syndrome is basically your immune system attacking itself, and it's the immune system having an inappropriate response to external things. So you can basically everything, but the big ones are medications, bugs, the sun, heat, your hormones, temperature changes inside of you, spices, lotions. It basically can be anything, everything, and nothing at the same time.
And It's just reacting to things that it shouldn't, right? Those things shouldn't come.
Yeah, those shouldn't come. So basically, if you were to cut your arm, your mast cell goes, hey, you cut your arm, and the mast cells go to the arm, and the mast cells put a little flag up to know where to go, and they go running there. For me, there's a Super Bowl going on inside my body, and the mast cells are in there like running around going crazy. The police go in, my antihistamines go in to take care of this, and they're in there like 3 weeks after the Super Bowls happened, and they're in there. The police are trying to like grease the poles so they don't climb the poles after the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And the police are in there trying to like get them off the poles, send them home, stop them from tipping the buses, and they're still in there having a party. So it's like after surgeries, yeah, they don't really help. And so mast cell is my biggest beast that I still have trouble with, and that's why I need a feeding tube, because I'm down to about 5 different foods that I can eat, and sometimes those still trigger me. So even like an applesauce, I have to have a specific applesauce, because certain applesauces have certain ingredients. Like lemon is my biggest trigger, but lemon is used as a preservative instead of like regular preservatives. So it's like it has to be a specific applesauce. So if I go to the hospital, sometimes I have to bring my specific applesauce. I have to pre-medicate to get in bath water, because think of like how many chemicals are in just water. So yeah, it's very complicated. Then
it even though I know it's a completely different condition, Nell has complex regional pain syndrome, and we can relate in the sense that there's reactions that happen with her nervous system as it pertains to pain and pain reactions, where it's also out of whack, right? So instead of being like, okay, well, I'm gonna register pain because there's something really kind of going on, and I'm gonna have inflammation happen because that's gonna happen. It's like in this confused state, and it's just like, oh, this is painful, and this is and so I kind of liken that these are all kind of disorders that you're and how confusing. I'm sure before you start getting answers for people that have researched it and things, and be able to help you understand how confusing it must be when you're kind of comparing yourself, just as you normally do as you're going through adolescence and things, and being like, what the heck's wrong with me, and people
when you're
sadly,
screaming that you're on fire and there's bugs crawling on you, yeah, the doctors like to look at you like, okay, and there's nothing red on you, nothing. They're just like, okay, that's nice.
And just
and
that alone,
doctors do not like to there is a big stigma with mast cell currently, and I'm having the discussion currently specifically at my hospital, because Dr. Lawrence Afrin, who's the god for mast cell, used to work at my hospital. There's a big stigma there now, and so my doctor who works there currently is willing to change my mast cell diagnosis to a different name that is like mast cell, so there's not as much stigma. And I said, no, I fought for this label, and now you want me to change it.
Well, and that's the thing, is that it's being, putting yourself out there and saying, we can make a difference in turning around the stigma, right? We're not going to be controlled by whether there is a stigma. Oh my gosh. And it's interesting, you guys, because every story that's out there, whether you're able to be involved with your with your the the art or the fashion stuff, or whether you're not able to, or whether you're able to be on an interview, like Nell's not able to be on this, but sometimes she is. We've got a couple of people that have joined today that just come, that stand out to me. Andy's Journey, if you're not following her, she's a friend
I love ours. Andy.
Yeah, she's trying her best to be here, but she's in the middle of maybe having to call an ambulance, for crying out loud. And so she's trying to do her best to be present. I don't know if you guys know Butterfly Christine, but she was in here.
Yes.
She had her oxygen blow up in her face, and she's got major burns. And she's got a post where she's taken off her bandage and she's just got all of this just bubbled up. And I just, you people are going through this and still trying to find answers, find people that can, care for them, and whatever it is that you like to do that helps you to feel like that you've got worth and value, they're trying to do it. And it just my heart goes out to you because right now this is a time for you to be in that spotlight because you are so instrumental. But I know that you're an influence to other people that go through things, and when you are as outspoken as you are, they flock to that, right? They're like, wow, look at she's especially when you can adapt and you're still involved with some things. Sometimes things aren't as bad enough to where you're just in bed all the time, and I'm sure that
And
there's
see,
times
that's the
where you're
facade that I like to put on, but
well that I was going to say there's times where you are in bed a lot.
and
Yeah,
that's
so
the
don't
thing
let
with those pictures. I did those pictures, and every picture I took, I came back screaming into my bed, and we had to use my two of my emergency medications, get my nebulizer on me, and I laid in bed questioning if I could get to the next picture. So it's like those
yeah,
pictures took every ounce of me, and it was like
there
questioning,
you
are we
go.
gonna have to call 911? And so it's like I can do those pictures, but it's like I am fully bedridden. I do
Yeah.
not. I get in my chair once in a blue moon, but it's like people see those pictures and they think, oh my gosh, like
What's wrong with you? Or yeah, exactly.
it's like
Yeah,
I am like I've got the bed currently. I've got 4 pillows propping me up because I can't hold myself up. So it's like people think I've got a great facade and a great, I put up a great fight, but it's like that's full masking. That is full
well,
masking. That's like
yeah, Nell can relate with that as well because she is in bed most of the time. But when she's able to get ready, she'll spend time throughout the day to kind of get ready. And if she gets in front of the camera, and if you were to see her, you would think, what's wrong with you? So you're right. I mean, we've all got those moments where maybe we've,
yeah.
you know,
And it's like
been
you
in,
don't see the PICC line, you don't see the tube, and it's like
yeah.
and that's the thing with invisible illnesses as well. It's like currently you don't see that I'm wearing my Aspen collar because I found a headband that actually covered my
Yeah, talk
Aspen
about
collar.
that. Talk about that. It's not a brace. It's not a neck brace, right?
Oh no, it's a full Aspen collar.
Okay, talk about that. Help us understand what that's for.
So I have cranial cervical instability. So the night that I woke up and I couldn't pick up my head, the doctors let me think that it was, all in my head for 72 9 months. I went without getting this diagnosed, and she goes, pretty sure you have cranial cervical instability. And it started that night when you went to the hospital saying you couldn't pick
Uh,
up your head, and they made you slowly pick up your head. I literally spent most of the first 2 weeks at that nursing home just raising up my bed without passing out. And then we spent the next couple days, and they didn't actually work on my neck. They just lifted the bed. And once I sat up, they're like, you're good. And I was like, I turn my head this way, and my eyes are ticking this way. I go this way, and my eyes slam shut. And all of a sudden, they would put a pen in front of my face, and all of a sudden, my eyes were locked on it. And I realized I had whiplash symptoms from having so many seizures. And finally, I was telling her these things. She's like, you have cranial cervical instability. So basically, I had, and 1 in 15 people with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome
yeah.
have cranial cervical instability because of the connective tissue is so weak. So basically, just like the hypermobility in their joints, your neck can be hypermobile as well. So cranial cervical instability is just the hypermobility of your neck depending on which direction it goes. Currently, I am trying to get out to Baltimore, where the surgery that I'm looking at is 3 surgeries in one. It would be a fusion on the neck, a discectomy in the middle, and then they're talking about they think I have tethered cord syndrome. So basically, the surgery I had in 2016, basically the bundle of my spinal cord has gotten bunched up in the extra tissue there, so it's pulling on my spinal cord at the bottom. So they'll have to like unbundle all of that. which is very scary.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So I would have to like have this opened, have the middle opened, and have the bottom opened. And I do not do well with surgeries. It is very risky with me because of medications, reactions, and my hospital stays usually are pretty long because of all of the medications and reactions afterwards. So because of this, we have to go all the way out there for a special EDS doctor. But yeah, this keeps it stable, but they think there's a vascular invagination happening currently where my head is actually sinking down on the spine, like this way. And then my head is tipping to the right. And then we're actually doing testing this week, which I'm very scared of, where I actually have to do a weighted one where I'm bending. They're going to test it this way as well. So
I think Andy has something like that as well, because she has the neck.
Yep, she's got something like that as well. But yeah, cranial cervical instability is definitely not a fun one and can cause pain in the neck, tingling down the spine. It can cause vision issues, speech issues. I take this off, and my nurses joked at the hospital when they have to check for the skin underneath. They're like, it's sort of like pushing the off button back there. Sometimes you take it off, my eyes shut, my mouth shuts, or I'll pass out, and they'll put it back on, and I'm just like, hi. So it's like a weird party trick. The thing for me is like, I always find the positivity in things. And when I'm in a teaching hospital, the students come in, they're like, oh my goodness, hi. And I'll be like, if I can, when I'm having my episodes of things, I'll be like, come in, look, touch, look, see, come here, look, pull, look, see, like, look at the monitors, like, come over here, look at this. And so when I was in for 2 weeks this last time, I was like, they had the same nurse with me, but they'd have the students come in, and the students be like, I have you today, Chelsea. I'm like, first of all, come over here. This is a really cool map. I want to show you how this is all connected. It's called the pentad of all my disorders. This is how they're all connected. And they'd be like, oh my goodness, can I take a picture? I'm like, of course, it's from a book. My name's not on it. So anybody who's listening who has Ehlers-Danlos or hypermobility spectrum disorder, look up Disjointed. It is on Amazon. It will be your lifesaver, and it will help you with all of your diagnostics and disorder issues and what you need to look for and anything else.
Awesome. Talk to us about dysautonomia.
Dysautonomia, yeah. So there are many different types of dysautonomia, and a lot of times you hear about POTS, and I have neurogenic. I'm going to say it wrong.
Neurogenic syncope or something.
Yeah, my brain.
Neurocardiogenic
syncope. There we go. Neurocardiogenic syncope. So, yeah. So basically, dysautonomia, there's different branches of it. There's a fatal type. There's pure autonomic failure. There's POTS, which is postural orthostatic tachycardic syndrome. Or not syndrome, but yeah. And so my type, it's basically like brain and like sometimes, well, I was told anxiety driven, but what I've noticed is that my doctor is reevaluating me to look at POTS now that because my testing was so weird. This is how I'm going to explain it. We have to sort of look at it again. So you do a tilt table test. I don't know if you've heard of this. It's the gold standard to find out about dysautonomia. So when you go in, they have you lay on this big table, but first you have to sit, and without your heart medication. When I was sitting, my heart rate was 150. When I was laying down, it was 120. And when they lift this table that you were strapped down, sort of like Frankenstein, they lift this giant metal table, and my heart rate went up to 270. Which my doctor, when I came down, he's like, you good? What's up? And I got really stiff. And so it was sort of confusing. And so he thought I was having like anxiety. And I was like, no, I'm fine. And so he didn't know what category to put it in, but he also has me down as POTS as well. So I have 2 different labels currently, but now it's looking more like POTS because now I have to eat the salt chews. My BP is getting down to about 79/55. It gets really low. So yeah, the dysautonomia, the labels have been switching back and forth here lately. So basically, it's the dysfunction of your autonomic nervous system. So like your brain, your heart, your lungs. Sometimes you can get really dizzy, the blood pooling in your feet and hands. So my hands get really cold, my feet get cold, the middle of my body will be hot. My hands will turn white, my feet will turn red. Sometimes I just sit up and pass out. Sometimes all of a sudden I'll be like trying to catch my breath and I don't know why. And then sometimes when I lay down, all of a sudden it's like my eyes are sort of like going wacky. So it can give you some weird symptoms, but the one that connects with it a lot is intestinal dysmotility. So dysautonomia connects with the intestinal dysmotility because that can slow down GI tracts. And so the intestinal dysmotility we found, so since when I was little, I was diagnosed with kidney reflux disease. So one of my kidneys is smaller than the other. And when I was going through testing with my doctor, she told me I could have been diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome by the age of 11. I had all of the red signs of everything. The doctors just missed everything because they're not looking for this. As you've probably heard the phrase, when you hear hoofbeats, think horses, not zebras. And that's why you see zebra stripes for rare disorders. And so they were just looking for horses all the time. By high school, I had mitral valve prolapse. And by my 20s, I had degenerative disc disease. And when I had pain, when I had that, they told me, you're just aging in my 20s. That's why I had that. Degenerative disc disease in your 20s, that's not common. Normal. And so they told me I was just aging, but they basically, she was like, yeah, you could have been diagnosed by 11 with all of that. But because I had kidney reflux disease, a common cause or common effect of that is constipation. But then now I'm having slow motility and also lots of other motility issues. And now with the feeding, I had an NJ for a year, and now I have a J tube. So now I'm having a lot more motility issues and malabsorption, and it's a whole complicated case. I have a GI motility specialist that took 6 months to get into. We're doing a smart pill in June, which basically takes care of a swallowing study, a colonoscopy, and an endoscopy, which is absolutely amazing. You just swallow a pill that's a camera, and it just goes all the way down without having to do like the prep of a colonoscopy or anything like that. You just swallow and it goes down. So I'm so excited that I don't have to do all of that. And I just swallow it and get the results so they can get a better picture of what's going on, and hopefully we can get some better treatment, because currently I have so many medications I'm having to take to get things moving. But that's definitely one that is so painful and is also a cause from my mast cell. I call it mast cell belly. When I'm having a mast cell attack, shortly afterwards, you can get lots of GI symptoms. And so I'll watch my stomach go flat, and then all of a sudden, like, it can get like a little pregnant belly. And it gets hard and just like sits there. And it's like the gas or like whatever is in there just sits there and builds up. And because I have a new J tube, the J tube gets really tight and can start contracting on the muscles. And with a feeding tube just pushing in more liquid, it becomes very uncomfortable. So,
my gosh.
Yep.
What about neuropathy? That's one of the last ones in the list.
Yes. So the neuropathy, I will be tested for small fiber neuropathy, but I also I'm going to be getting tested for CRPS as well, because I have it on both legs, but one of them comes and goes in flares. The first flare I had, it was shortly after I had an injection in my spine, and the first spinal surgery I had, for some reason I went paralyzed afterwards. For a short amount of time, it took me a year to walk again. Pretty sure it was all because of my EDS mast cell medications. But then they did this injection that night. I ended up in ER because I had this burning fire sensation on my leg.
Yeah.
And then for the rest of that week or 2 or 3, I had to lay in the basement because I couldn't get around. And that side of my leg was just red. And literally my mom opened the front door, and I couldn't have any pants or anything on there, so I'm just laying with this shirt with like my blanket over one leg. My mom opened the front door upstairs. I'm in the basement, and the air pressure of my mom opening the front door made me scream downstairs just because the air pressure moved. I tried to take a shower, and my mom was just holding me screaming while I tried to put a blanket above it while I held the blanket and tried to let the water like drip around it, just like get clean. That wasn't happening. I was just screaming. So, and then I started reading about chronic regional pain syndrome. And I was like, this sort of sounds like that.
Would you go? Yeah, it could be very. Nell has degenerative disc disease as well, and CRPS, but yeah, there could be some symptoms there that's happening that's the part of the nervous system.
Yeah.
To the cells and the muscles and things.
Yeah, because it happened shortly after that procedure, and then after my other procedure, then it flared up again. So it seems to flare up, and then it flares up every so often where like nobody can touch it, nobody can, just don't come by it, nothing can swoop by it, nothing. So yeah, the neuropathy I've had, but the other side of my leg neuropathy, I've had it since I've been like 12 years old, from my knee to the top. And funny enough, my mom has the same spot of neuropathy from her knee to her hip on the same side.
And again, neuropathy, what's the symptoms of?
Sort of numb pins and needles, and so yeah, just pins and needles in your leg. Just yeah.
Like
nerve condition that just, yeah, I don't really have the best explanation of it, but it's just misfiring of the nerves.
But on the left or right side, or is it both? Or
it's on both sides, but the one that's like the worst is on this side, the one that comes in flares. But on the other side, it goes from my knee to my hip and covers the whole outside of my, I always confuse calf and thigh. Calf is on the bottom, thigh is on the top. It's the thigh from the knee outside all the way up to the hip. And that's the one that me and mom both have identical neuropathy and numbness. It's so funny.
So all these conditions that and I really appreciate you giving good descriptions of all of that. I think that helps a lot of people understand how complex things can happen, and certainly how so much of it's an invisible illness. You talked a little bit about how this, you started getting answers and things. What did you find out these various conditions in a relatively short period of time? And was you already involved with all that modeling earlier, so it just kind of really changed, at least for a time, with what you were able to do? I mean, did your life just change pretty significantly?
No. When on September 13th, 2019, everything stopped. Like, and no more job. Like, I had all those seizures, and then a doctor figured out it was those meds, and they finally stopped. But like, that was the day all my jobs stopped. I lost my driver's license. Like, I became fully disabled. And if I would have looked back, I was probably disabled and chronically ill for probably 3-4 years prior to that. And I was just hiding it. And it was just like, I'd have people pick me up from places and drive me home. I was starting to Uber from places. I was too tired. And during fashion weeks, I would stay at a hotel because I was too tired to actually make it back to where I needed to go. So I was like compensating for a lot of things.
So it hit you to where it really took you out of a lot of things that you enjoyed.
I can't leave
In life.
I'm completely in my home. There's no jobs. Completely bedridden, cannot leave the home
Still,
except for
still,
doctors. Yeah. So like when
still.
I am on the advisory board, I zoom in. I was just offered a board position of WIFT, which is Women in Film and TV Minnesota. So hopefully when the board has their next meeting, they will approve me for that board spot and I will be involved in that. But it's like I put out the energy just from being in bed and
Yeah.
I can still be a bad butt queen. I didn't want to say
Yeah.
the other word,
Got
but a bad butt
Oh,
queen.
well, let's talk a little bit about that because a part of coping is adapting. You know, we have a tendency, um, you know, especially if we're grieving things, to kind of try to hold on to it, or it takes some time to kind of be like, okay, this is the circumstances of my life, so how can I adapt to this and still, you know, do the things that I'd like to. So, um, what give us a little bit of how you know what that looked like kind of leading up today in terms of what you found you can do and how you kind of came to terms with that, and that, you know, maybe I'm not able to do this, but I'm doing these things. Kind of talk a
Yeah.
little bit about that.
So for me, in the very beginning, I felt like I was a mess screaming into the void, and I was so frightened and scared, and I was just looking at the doctors like, help me, help me, help me. Then I was laying in bed one day, and I like just had a moment with God. I looked up and I said, take my anxiety, take my depression, like I surrender everything. I give it to you, take it all. And I remember from that moment, I felt at peace with everything, like whatever happens with my body, like I'm I'm at peace with that. Like even with my seizures after that moment, I would be like, okay. And I would look at mom and be like, okay, I'm going right now. And it's just like I believe that whatever happens with my body is the natural process, and whatever happens happens, and I'm okay with that. And then from that moment on, like I have not had a grieving process. I truly believe from that moment, like I knew that the date it was going to happen. So I never really had a grieving process, and I don't think I will have a grieving process because I truly believe that God brought me to do this, and this was a calling for me to continue to do this for disability awareness, but not only to do that, but for advocacy for people who don't have voices. And my other step is to be able to fight for ADA rights for people in the hospital to protect their bodies so we do not have more medical trauma. And that is the biggest next step, because there's too much medical trauma and we need to protect their bodies, our bodies, everybody in the hospital who is getting medical trauma, because COVID has changed a lot of things and there needs to be ADA protection. And I said, one day when I feel strong enough to get in my chair and roll up in $1,000 suit to Capitol Hill with all of my friends, we will do the Capitol crawl again and get more ADA rights to protect us, because we do not have those protections and we do not have enough accessibility to things. And so,
What are
yeah.
what you think are the medical trauma that you're trying to reduce? So you're just talking about accessibility, or talk to me about what you mean from from what you're trying to advocate for.
Saying for the medical traumas, you were saying?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, well, like I don't want to get graphic or trigger anybody, but there's a lot of people who are not being listened to. Well, yeah, there's one person in the comments right now. I'm just looking in the comments. So true, it's devastating. I'm deeply sorry for the people who endure this. Yeah, people who are not being listened to the doctors, but I have stories upon stories of people being physically harmed by doctors, and then telling other people that this is the normal process when I know that is not supposed to be done. People who are having seizures and things happening to their bodies that shouldn't be happening. And so I am in a group where I've told them that you need to wear cameras on them and let them know that you have the camera. When I am in, something happened to me when I was in an ambulance. And so now every time I'm in the ambulance, I bring a recording device on me. I don't let them know I have it, but I have it upside down. So I have it so I can listen. And so if I need something to protect. So there are things that are happening in the medical industry that are harming bodies, and it is horrific. And the thing is a lot of people don't want to hear that, and it's sad. And I know that the medical industry, people are burnt out, people are tired. I love my nurses. I love the people who help me, but yeah, someone just said it's terrifying. It is
No,
terrifying that the people who that we're supposed to trust our bodies with, we can't trust our bodies with right now because they're so burnt out. But we need something to be able to protect ourselves, because calling patient advocate after it's already happened is not enough currently.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's you know, you talk about how this is, you know, such a blessing for you, or you're not even to the point. That's actually the first time I've ever heard of that, quite frankly, of you're not even feeling like that you've gone through kind of a grieving period. Um, I that kind of took me back a little bit in that I've heard people talking about going through the grieving period and how to healthily do that, but I haven't seen anybody that has gone through it to extent where they recognize the blessings that come from it, to where they're not even grieving because they're feeling like so much peace with that. So how amazing is that? Pain Crusader says, "Love how God uses bad things that happen for good. He has big plans for you, girl." Yeah,
Thank you so much.
yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know if
that's
you're following Pain Crusader. We're gonna be we got her. I think we got her scheduled here in a couple of months. So follow her if you're not already. She's a good advocate as well. Um, but yeah, I mean, and furthermore, I think that what hopefully people, uh, if they haven't already, start seeing is not only is there just beauty in that truth, and that what is associated with just your life and how special and how important your life is, but that is also true for countless others. And at least in my experience, I'm seeing um, him bring those people together in a way that maybe hasn't happened before, in terms of supporting each other and sharing their stories. We're just a small part of that, I think. And so how beautiful it is for people to just feel like that, not only in their own right in terms of the virtue that you have just within yourself and the kindred spiritness that we have with each other, to have that kind of, like with what you're saying, take that further and to acknowledge our, Father in heaven, God, creator, and that he has us, he's got our backs, and he's going to be taking care of us. And sometimes that's hard to do when you're in your greatest suffering, right? And sometimes there's not always the easiest answer. And I'm sure that when you say, you haven't gone through a grieving period, that's not to have anybody feel, if they're really struggling with grief because they've lost something in their life, or if their life's not the same, that they need to beat themselves up about it. Nell's been vocal. I don't know, she's just recently, if you guys haven't seen the video that's just been posted, but she's kind of at a scary place in terms of the um, you know uh, feeling like that, where her worth is, and just um, you know maybe even believing things that aren't true, and kind of risking having her pass on because of her own decision, right? And I know that there's a lot of people that's happening with, and many of them are successful in passing on. And I think God's got grace for people that does happen to, and I think of course He's got grace in helping us to stay here and to hopefully get into a place where we're feeling better about our circumstances and and still feeling our worth and knowing that we can serve. And you're certainly an example among many of that. Um, yeah. So talk to me. When we first started the interview, we kind of jumped straight into kind of the exciting things that are happening during Fashion Week, and as we we're talking about how you kind of adapted at least at the minimum, even if there wasn't as much grief like you're saying. Certainly, I think everybody can relate with that. There's a need to adapt and cope and things like that. Um, you are involved this week even in those things and very instrumental in how you're serving us. Talk a little bit more about some of those things that, regardless of everything that you've described, how people like you, people like Nell, people like, and the list can go on and on. They're still finding those times. May not be that it means that they're not in bed a lot, right? We talk, but there's those moments where they absolutely have a place in this world. So tell us a little bit more about what you've been involved with this week.
So this week, so last week I did all of the pictures. So if you go to my page, you can go to my Instagram and see all of my posts. They're also on my Facebook page. They're linked on my link tree. But if you go to my Instagram, all of my Instagram posts, you can see all of my pictures. And above my pictures, each day has a different theme of disability awareness. So I use my fashion to raise awareness about disabilities because I find that's my medium to raise awareness, and it makes it a little bit easier to the palate. So every day last week, Monday to Thursday, I would shoot 2 pictures. It would take 6 hours to get those done. So I'd have to get up, and then we'd have to unplug my lines and tubes, and then get in my chair, pick the spot. Oh, we'd have to unplug, get dressed, and then go find the spot. And then I had a light and my camera, and then put it on a hospital tray and move the hospital tray back and forth in the spot that we want it. And then I would have to like pose, and my mom or my PCA would move it back and forth in the spot to try to get the perfect picture. And then after that, I'd jump in, well, not jump, but I'd roll into bed and I'd get my emergency medication because my makeup or my hair or whatever from exhaustion would take me out, and I would need that. So after those pictures are done, the next week is actual Fashion Week. So right now, there's either 1 or 2 shows a day. So this week, what I do is I post the pictures each day. So I usually have 1 outfit for a day. The other day I had 2 because an outfit came in and I was like, oh, I gotta use it. And so I am posting the pictures and writing up what I want to do, and I write them. And then during the shows, I made sure that last year and this year I made sure that all of the shows are live and accessible to anybody who is not able to get to the shows, whether it is because they are bedridden or they can't because of sensory issues, or because of mobility and the space is not ADA appropriate. I made sure that all the shows are live. Like I said, they just need to be live. And I'm working on hopefully the lives to be a little bit more stable.
Is this Fashion Week, is this something that you've organized, or is there an organization?
No. This has been organized for quite a long time. I think since 2005, it's been Fashion Week Minnesota, but I'm now on the advisory council board, so I now get to see the shows, what's coming up, give some yays and nays on this show looks good. One of them was sort of like, this might not be appropriate. It's, using a word that might be offensive to the chronically ill community. So let's change this. We had 1 show last year that actually offended the chronically ill community. So that was taken care of. So like, yeah, we have some issues. Last year I got a phone call from them being like, how do we handle this? Somebody who's disabled is really upset. And so they kept calling me. And so that's how they're like, we just need to get her on the board. So
Huh.
I watch all the shows and I watch them live. And then as I'm watching them, I'm screenshotting the pictures that or outfits that look great. And when the final zipper comes, a zipper is basically the final walk. When the final walkthrough comes, I will then put it on like a screen record live. And so I can get that live video. And then before the next show, if there's 2 shows, I will try to get those images up within 15 minutes, which can be really fast. And then so I edit it to make it look like I'm actually there. So I take out anything that says Instagram live, comments, hearts, whatever. And then I edit the film so there's no like slide down or anything. I pop them up and I tag the event, fashion week, the designer, and everything on each one of the things, and I pop them up as quick as possible. So yeah, it's a lot of like clicking and like tagging,
Yeah,
and you have to do it pretty quickly. And normally there's like anywhere between 10 and 20 posts, and then there's people resharing. So then I'll go to some of their pages and like snag a post that looks really good, zoom it in to make it look like I was there, and do that. So I've made it. One of my friends was like, "You were there? I didn't even know," and be like, mm-hmm. So I make it look hard to make it look like I'm there.
Nell and the art that she has, and part of the spoonful of sugar with the whole, gift giving, part of what she's wanting to do, not just have interviews, but she wants to travel. We want to be able to, give gifts, basically make people feel special. That's the whole idea of the spoonful, right? Of sugar. Um, what and I think that what drives her at the core of all of that is how people in the chronic pain community um, can really have their worth at risk, right? It's just not feeling, special, right, or important, that you belong in society. As you're involved with fashion, and I see some commonality in terms of maybe how that's fulfilling for you and why that's so important to you, other than just maybe it's just part of your personality, right? I just love art. I love just fashion. What are some of the things that it does for you that motivates you on how you think that might benefit the people that you're influencing? How
The thing is that we do not have enough adaptive clothing, and so that's why I met with Target corporate, because originally was ranting on Instagram saying I can go online for Target and they have not Jack and Jill, but Kelly Jack and something, and they have adaptive clothing for children, but they don't have anything for women. They do have one thing for women that is adaptable wear. It's called Universal Threads, and it's more like stretchy Cat and Jack. Thank you, Fused Forever. Thank you, Cat and Jack, which is accessible adaptive clothing for kids. Tommy Hilfiger has an adaptive line. But the thing is I've realized with clothing and big lines is sometimes you have to choose one or the other. Now, Tommy Hilfiger was called out for racism, and the thing is, do we go with the adaptive clothing line, or do we buy the clothing even though he was called out for racism? And the thing is there are very few adaptive clothing lines. You know what I mean? And the thing is like, that's a struggle for a lot of people. It's like, well, if that's an adaptive clothing line, honestly, it's like, I don't want to support racism. And you sort of get stuck. It's like some of these lines are by people that I would not agree with their support missions whatsoever, but that's the only thing that's out there, and it's very frustrating. And it's like, go ahead.
Well, no, I see where it's kind of a dilemma, right? I mean, it's interesting because as you look back at society and history, and there was pioneers, whether that is, those that helped to improve the conditions associated with racism, or whether you look at people that helped to make handicap parking available and ramps. There was a place where that was what they were confronting, right? And that was like the priority. And so it's interesting to see kind of next generations kind of be grateful for that, but to be part of continuing that, right? And I think that this can be part of that. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, hey, everybody's got to wear clothes, and it's not like we're dead, and we're talking millions of people, right? And so it's not
Mm-hmm.
like we're I'm entitled, so make something just for me, kind of a thing, and so it's a very fair question to say, hey, look, what rate to challenge it, right? And be
Yeah.
like, and who better to do that than people that are involved with that and influence that. I think that's amazing. I haven't really uh, talked about that component. There hasn't been anybody that I've interviewed. I it's interesting because I want to say it's almost been a year now, but there used to be a point before we started doing any of this that I was at a place where I just didn't know anybody that had pain. We felt alone, and and now I talk to people all the time. So it's kind of more of the commonality, but I have to keep reminding myself that there are people out there that still haven't found people that they
Mm-hmm.
with, and or just like this, even though I've talked with a lot of people, there hasn't been anybody that has been able to be involved in that part of the fight of hey, yeah, as you talk about that, all of us go, yeah, if I've got you know some kind of instrument or something coming out of some part of my body with whatever is happening, um, even if it's like the scarf, right? I mean, you adapted and you utilized that with that mindset. That probably wasn't made for that, but it could be,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Um,
Yeah, and currently for me, I'm having a hard time finding clothing that fits because of the J tube where it's placed. I want to wear like all the clothes for Fashion Week were very difficult for me because my J tube sits literally on my rib cage.
yeah,
If a dress comes down and where it usually fits tight across the middle, like right where you zip, I can't get it to go tight because there's that bump there now. And so it's like I almost need something that either has a release out the side. And I've met other people where they actually cut the holes in the pocket, but it's like we need adaptive wear that is
yeah,
available for formal wear. We need adaptive wear that is available in like everywhere. And the thing is there's nothing that is ready to wear in like JC Penney's or ready to wear at Macy's or ready to wear at Target. And the thing is like they're coming, but they're slow. It's like even adaptive wear on Amazon is not a thing. And the thing is, if it is, it costs twice as much. And it's like I am not a commodity. I'm not like I
yeah,
am just like you. And I underwears, bras. It's like I would like a bra that I don't have to put over my collar, over my pick line. It's like I need a bra that can be easily done. And the bras that they're making are costing twice as much. And it's like just because they add a clasp or a zipper, and it's just like, but if you know you're giving them to disabled people who are usually
yeah.
under the line of making money, why are you charging them more?
Well, it's interesting because the irony is that there's a marketability motivation. I mean, if they could, if companies can just reduce prices, get it in, get the people involved that can give them the information they need to make the products.
Yeah, and I've met
They're
I've
they could,
met with a lot of people, and I've
yeah,
done a lot of questionnaires. But my plan is to my long term plan is to maybe put something out. And a lady happened to have fallen in my lap. She lives in my neighborhood. She used to work out in New York, and so maybe not. We could
yeah,
maybe make something. So I would
because that's
love to put
yeah,
something out.
not a lot of people are in a position where they can do it. So I think that's amazing and cheer you on with that. And then there might be, and giving the benefit of the doubt, there might be some organizations that would be more open to that, but maybe the whole idea of people just talking more about it, right? There's just that kind of tendency of like, we're the healthy ones and we've got all these things and it's great, then we're the ones that got the, and so it's just there, there's all sorts of reasons why people might not be just talking to
I
one
don't think
another. And that,
people, yeah, and that's what I did when I talked about it this week on one of my posts. I don't think people were aware about
yeah,
adaptive clothing. They were fully unaware. And when I remember seeing the first post of this child standing in front of the first Target post with the child in a wheelchair, or he had walking sticks, and they were like, and it was a mom that was crying, being like, my child just walked into Target and said, look, it's me. And it was the first post where they were talking about the adaptive clothing, and they're like, I didn't know they needed different clothes. And it's just like,
yeah,
because
well,
people need to
and it's,
see.
yeah, sometimes they're not going to seek it out. And so sometimes, as part of the whole, mission in terms of making sure that, all of us as part of the human family are included in all of the amazing things that we can have here on the earth as well. Yeah, sometimes it might mean, you know, putting yourself out there and being a pioneer of sorts, right? In terms of starting the conversation. So I think that's amazing. I learned some things today. I haven't talked with anybody that's talked about that component of things and is in a position firsthand there to influence that. So I'm going to look forward to watching that and cheering you on, and I just think that's amazing. And I said that there's a lot to unpack, and we've got like 15 minutes ish about what have we not talked about that's on your mind that you want to just kind of close out with, that we haven't covered, about your story, about your mission, about what you want for people to know.
Um, I just want to say that not to stop advocating for yourself, especially in hospital settings, even when you're getting no's, and that if you feel uncomfortable with a doctor, that you have the right to get a new doctor. Or if you're in a clinical setting and you don't like the doctor, remember that you are interviewing that doctor. That doctor is not interviewing you. You are interviewing the doctor, and you are paying that doctor. So you can say, you're fired, I'm getting a new doctor. Now, this is for the US, not for other countries, it's different. So if you walk into your doctor that day and you feel like you can't disclose information about your body or a symptom, and that should be a sign that that is not your doctor,
Yeah, not
because
the
it's not the right fit if you can't disclose something or you feel uncomfortable at any point. And so you can fire that doctor and move on. Just be open-minded. Like, when you are getting a new doctor, you are interviewing them. They are not interviewing you. You are in control. Do not let them control you. And at any second, you can just get up and walk away. And you can also say, please do not put that on my record, because at any point, like when they say, I think you might have that, they can put it on your chart. But if you don't identify to that, you can also say, I don't think I identify to that, and they will not put it on your chart. And another thing that is very key when you're in the hospital, and I learned this from the Black Lives Matter movement, is that when Black women were not being treated for their pain, they said, if you are denying me treatment, or you are not, if you deny me treatment and you are denying my diagnosis, I want you to chart that. And so basically that's saying that that doctor would have to chart that he denied you treatment, and he is denying what diagnoses you already have that are in the chart, which usually changes their attitude, and you usually would get the treatment, or they'll walk out of the room and you get a better doctor, or they'll walk out of the room, change their mind, and come back in. So if you feel like you're not getting the right treatment and you're in the ER, or in the hospital, if you are denying me treatment, I want you to chart it and chart it in front of me. So make sure you know what they're doing. And when you're watching it, if they're putting it in codes, you say, give me 1 second, go to your phone, type that code in to make sure they're not putting in any behavioral codes, and make sure they're charting that they are denying you testing, because you can ask for whatever testing you want. And if it's a good doctor, they should offer it to you. Advocate for yourself, and if you feel like you can't, get an advocate with you. Get a mom, get a sister, get a friend, whoever you feel like is a great advocate with you. Make sure they are with you in the room when you go. If you don't feel comfortable in ERs, bring one with you, because patient advocates currently sometimes can't be in the rooms and they're busy, they're not there at nighttime. So make sure that you have a friend that you feel like can be an advocate with you when you go, and make that plan now to make sure you have one with you. My mom is a great patient advocate for me. I don't care how old I am. She is my person when it comes to patient advocate, because I become nonverbal during my attacks. I slur, and then with my other attacks, my jaw locks, so I cannot speak. Sometimes I can talk through my teeth, but on my other attacks, I become completely speechless. And so I cannot talk for myself. So I need someone to advocate for me. So
Oh my God, that is big.
those, yeah. So it looks like I'm having a stroke. So I cannot talk for myself. And so sometimes the nurses will be like, well, mom's trying to talk for me. And they'll be like, no, I need her to confirm. And it's like, if I can't move my head or my jaw, and they're like, she needs to confirm whether she wants it. And I'm trying to go like, and it's like, and I will like say at the very beginning, but if a nurse is shifted, I have to have a piece of paper that says like, she is my advocate at this point.
Oh, I love that, because you know, there are, bless our caretakers, but and even those that do take care of us that are in the provider, but they don't know us personally, right? And so, you know, are good people that you can find that will treat you a lot better maybe than the other person, as the circle kind of gets closer to you, like you're saying, whether it's a spouse or a mom. You know, the caretakers usually, you know, have that relationship with you and can play a big part of that. But yeah, there's nothing that still can substitute for that, that self-care that you're talking about. You know, giving yourself permission to say, I matter.
Mm-hmm.
None of what I am going through
You deserve
means
to take up space.
I am not less important
Mm-hmm.
because I have these things. And that is such a critical message that I think that we all join together on, is and we shouldn't have to challenge that in society because it seems ridiculous, really.
Mm-hmm.
But but that's what the truth is that I'm not less because of fill in the blanks. And so when you do that for yourself, really amazing things can happen.
Yep.
Well, Chelsea, I could talk with you forever, my friend. You know, we when I I tell those that we interview that they're kind of our family, in the sense that we hold on to your information at least once or twice a year. We want to have Zoom calls where we'll send out an invite and, you know, have an opportunity for a lot of people that have joined us to all kind of interact. So look for that, and we're looking forward to that. Um, and I'll have this uploaded to YouTube here probably in a day,
Okay.
and I'll let you know, and you can kind of share that how you'd like. But thank you again for joining us and gracing us with your sweet spirit and the faith that you've got in yourself and your heavenly Father. It's just really inspiring.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to talk to you. I was so excited. Told my PC and everybody that I could be like, I've been waiting for this for so long, and
Oh,
I just love you so much because your faith is so strong that I can tell. And when I'm able to talk to people on a level like this, and when they are a faith person, it's very rare to find somebody nowadays when you can talk about your chronic illness but then also talk on a faith level.
yeah.
It just makes it even more special, and so I knew this conversation was going to be something special, and it
Oh,
was, and I'm so happy.
and Nell's gonna love you. And again, she would have just be giving you a big hug right now, and she's just right there with you and feeling the same. And I hope.
I'll give her an air hug right now. There you go.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, because she's, I hope that you feel her spirit because it's both of us absolutely, and that we feel this same way. And I try to represent her in a way that does some justice, but she's the better half, right? Whenever she's she's involved with it, it's everything's always better. But thank you again for joining us, and I look forward to following you.
Thank you so much. And Nell, I love you so much, and I'm sending you spoons.
All right, awesome. Well, thanks everybody for joining us next week, May 5th, Thursday at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. We have Steve Bordeaux joining us. I don't know if you guys know Steve, but
Yes!
so he's going to be joining us. He's going to be talking about mental and emotional health. He's just a suicide prevention influencer, really funny guy. So he's just a great positive influence. So if you're not following him, check him out and then join us next week. See everybody.
Bye!
Bye.